Hi guys, welcome back to the Mighty Blues. It is the instant match reaction. Brighton 1, Everton 1. The Toffees' winless run continues, and that is one of the more frustrating outcomes to a game of football we've witnessed in such a long time. Everton have been really poor of late, and performances haven't been particularly great whatsoever. The game against Crystal Palace on Monday night was absolutely shocking, and to think that we only managed to scrape a point out of that is a disaster. But today I thought we were much better. I thought it was very much a vintage Sean Dyche away performance. I thought we defended really well. We kept them out. Brighton had a lot of the ball, as they were always going to have. We knew it was going to be that case. That was going to be the case, creating opportunities, moving it forward, but we dealt with it all afternoon, and when we got our opportunity, we took it. We had a couple of opportunities in the game. Abdoulaye Doucouré is so unlucky to not put us 1-0 up earlier with his shot headed off the line by Tariq Lamptey, but we finally do go 1-0 up, with sort of 15 minutes to go, thanks to a fantastic effort by Jared Branthwaite. We then find out that not long after that, Brighton are down to 10 men. Billy Gilmour has left a little bit in on Amadou Onana, and, quite rightly so, it was a sending off. It tells you something when VAR cleared it within about 20 seconds, and given that it's Everton and we haven't had an opposition player sent off against us in about 4 years, that just tells you how bad of a challenge it was. And it felt like all we had to do then was just see the game out. We were winning 1-0. We were relatively comfortable. As I said, Brighton were fantastic in the first half, had an awful lot of the ball and were putting pressure on us. But in the second half, it was much more of an even game. Both sides were going back and forth. Both sides were creating space and creating opportunities for themselves. I think we both ended up on 4 shots on target each. And to think that we weren't able to hold out for an extra sort of 10 minutes is really worrying, in my opinion. Look, I don't know where the assistant has got 9 minutes from. It very much screams that Everton are winning the game, so let's add as much time on as we possibly can to deny them from winning the game. The sending off was seconds. It was cleared within seconds. It wasn't something that took 2 or 3 minutes. Okay, there was a couple of substitutions, granted, fair enough. Our goal again had kicked off within 30 seconds of us scoring, so I'm not quite sure where 9 minutes come from. It didn't make an awful lot of sense for me. I can't really remember there being anybody down for the sustained period of time either, but at the end of the day, it's down to us to hold out, and it's down to us to see that game out. And it's strange because last year and 2 years ago in that situation, I'd have been absolutely shitting myself sitting and watching the game. I'd have been thinking, right, we've got 10 minutes to go. I'd have been on my phone making sure that there was no updates. I'd have been nervous on the edge of the seat watching the game. Today I was sort of sitting there thinking, yeah, this is proper. This is played properly into Sean Dyche's hands here. We're 1-0 up. They're down to 10 men. There's 10 minutes to go. They were huffing and puffing a little bit, not really doing much, not really making much happen. And then within a split second and a lapse of concentration, they get a late equaliser, and once again, Everton's run of games of football without winning continues. Everton's run of winless games continues. It's not good enough, really. It just isn't, and we can sit here all we like and sugarcoat it, and we can sit here all we like and not blame the manager because the setup was perfect. And as I said, it was very much a vintage Sean Dyche performance. We can blame players, we can not blame players. Whoever we want to point the finger at today, whoever we want to hold responsible, the fact of the matter is, and the reality of the situation is, Everton still haven't won a game of football since December. Now, yes, I understand that we've only lost 1 in 5 or 6 or whatever it is, and that was against Manchester City, who were the best side on the planet. I get it. I get, we're picking up points against Brighton at Goodison, points against Villa, points on Monday night, and then obviously a point here today. And I think had we have turned up on Monday night and put a decent performance in, and the players that have actually turned up and had a go, and the manager that have actually turned up with a bit of bravery and a pair of bollocks about him, and we'd have won that game against Crystal Palace, I don't think there'd be much of an outcry about today. We'd worked hard, we'd done well, and we were unlucky. We conceded with a couple of minutes to go, and we've come away from a difficult place to go to with a point. Brighton have only been beaten once in the league at home this season, I believe, and that was in August, September, something like that. So a long time ago. So it's not the worst result in the world to come away from there with a point, but circumstance changes everything, and the circumstances Everton needed to win that game today. Everton were desperate to win that game today, and yes, I get it. Brighton are a good side, and they've only lost once at home since September or whatever it might be in the Premier League. I get all of that, but I've said this before and I'll say it again. I've been doing this channel for a long time, and there's been a number of times I've sat there before a game doing a preview and said, you know what, if we can get something out of this, if we can get a point, and walk away with a point, then you'd absolutely take it all day. But then the game actually happens, and the context of the game. I've done it with Merseyside derbies. Usually you'd walk away from a Merseyside derby with a point happy, but there's been derbies before where Everton have missed absolute massive chances in the last couple of minutes to win the game, and then all of a sudden you don't feel as happy as you think you would have thought when you walk away with a point, because you feel like you should have got more. And that's exactly the position that we're in today. If Everton had won on Monday night and maybe won a couple of weeks ago and had picked up a few wins here and there, you'd probably look at that one today and go, do you know what, we were unlucky, we should have done better, it is what it is, move on. But we've not won a game of football since December. You can sugarcoat it all you like. You can tell me how great the manager is. You can tell me how well his system worked today. You can tell me how well the players worked. And listen, we are in one of those positions where had Everton had held on for an extra 5 minutes, let's say, for example, the assistant had only put his board up for 4 minutes at a time, which would have been a little bit more sensible and made more sense than 9 minutes, which absolutely come out of nowhere. If I was Sean Dyche, I'd be saying I need an explanation as to where you got those 9 minutes from, because it's just a joke. It's an absolute joke. But maybe we would have held on, and we'd all been sitting here saying, what a great performance, what a great result, absolutely vintage Sean Dyche. And that's what it was. It was a Sean Dyche performance. But, when it's going against you, it's going against you, isn't it? And just like that Abdoulaye Doucouré chance where, it's brilliantly worked. It's great play by McNeil. He swings a great ball in, and obviously Doucouré's on the end of it. It's headed off the line, and you're just thinking, to add on top of everything else that's going on at the moment with Everton, all of the off-the-field stuff with the new owners, all of the stuff with the 10 points deduction, everything that's going on the pitch, you'd think we'd just maybe get a slice of luck, just maybe have a moment where, something goes our way for once, but it didn't. And again, it leaves you sitting here after the game thinking, if only that had have gone in, we'd have come away with a big 3 points. But like I said before, we can point fingers at various different people, and we can make various different reasons as to why Everton haven't won that game today. The reality is, when you have not won a Premier League game of football since December, and you are in a relegation battle, in which we are, and that would have been a huge 3 points today. It would have taken us a step further out of it. Burnley have lost today, I believe. Forest have lost today, I believe. Obviously, Luton lost in midweek. It would have been a massive 3 points, but we've not. And the fact of the matter is, it's through our own doing. Yes, there should never have been 9 minutes added on. I appreciate that, and that's a disgraceful decision by the officials. But these are professional footballers. We're told that these are the best of the best Premier League footballers, the best league in the world. Apparently, you've got to be one of the best footballers in the world to be able to play in it. Now, we all know these players have got, their positives and negatives, and we all know that most of them are very limited in what they can do and what they can offer us, and that's why the manager's setup and system is a very limited setup and system. But there's certain things for me that every professional footballer should be able to do, regardless of whether you are the worst of the worst or the best of the best. If you have made it as a professional Premier League footballer, you should be able to A, pass the ball further than 5 yards, which it seems at times like some of our players can't do, and B, and more importantly today, hold on to a game with 10 minutes to go. You're 1-0 up, the opposition have got 10 men, they're not really doing much, they're huffing and puffing a little bit. The change in that game was when the added time went up. That was the moment the game changed. Before the board was shown for the added time, Everton were in complete control. Brighton had very little chance of scoring. It looked like it was going to be one of those days for Brighton. Everton were comfortable, we were settled, and the players were probably thinking, another 2 or 3 minutes of this, we'll come away with a huge win. The moment that board went up, not only did it give the Brighton players a boost, it gave their crowd a boost. It was the first time I'd heard their crowd all afternoon. They were up and singing, and the players therefore fed off that and almost looked as if to say, we've got an extra 10 minutes here. This isn't a case of one and maybe another one or two chances. We could get a couple of big chances in this next 10 minutes. And it felt like that was the moment the game switched. It felt like that was the moment that it almost seemed like there was a cloud that just descended on the Everton players, and all of them, to a man, struggled to deal in that period of time. And it wasn't just the goal. They had another couple of chances where they'd moved forward and they'd pushed forward, and we were wasteful with the ball. Don't get me wrong, we had another couple of opportunities as well. Beto has one where he does brilliantly. He does all the hard work. He gets one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and then he puts it about 46 mile wide as he usually does. But that was the turning point for me, is when that added time goes up, and that's the difference between winning these games and not winning these games, is being able to look at that board and go, well, okay, that's a little bit longer than what we expected it to be, but let's not let it change anything. We're still in control. We're still doing well. We're still keeping our shape. We're 1-0 up there, down to 10 men. What we needed in that moment was, there was always going to be, because this always happens, this is always the case, whenever the board is put up and it's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 minutes, there's always a reaction from the team that are losing, because they look and think, we've got a decent chunk of time here to get back in this game. The fans were always going to react, the players were always going to react. All as we needed to do there is hold on for a few more minutes. Hold on for a few more minutes, not 10, because if we'd have got to 7, 8, Brighton would have probably looked at it and gone, do you know what? We're probably not going to get anything out of this, couple of minutes to go. But we didn't. We had a period of, probably 3 or 4 minutes where we really had to hold on, and we threw it. We absolutely threw it. The cross is far too easy for them to get it in. Beto just lets him throw the ball in practically. And then the header, I mean, Lewis Dunn comes from behind Onana and then jumps above. Is it Tarkowski or Brandweight to get it on target? And Jordan is absolutely nowhere near it. But you just look and you just think, how immature. That's such an immature, in a footballing performance sense, that's so immature. Those players will be kicking themselves now, thinking, how have we let that happen? How have we let that happen when we were, I'm not saying we were hugely in control of the game in terms of we were the much better team, but it seemed like there was no fear of us conceding, and then we allowed a situation like that. And when you've not won a Premier League game of football since December, and you're winning with 4 or 5 minutes to go, and the opposition team are down to 10 men, and you're away from home, and it'd be a huge win, I'm sorry, but I can't sit here and go, oh, well, decent performance, we'll move on from it. Maybe we could sit here and say, do you know what, decent performance, decent result, had we have beaten a really, really poor Crystal Palace side, who, by the way, have won again today. I believe they've beaten Burnley again today, so they've gone and got 4 points in the last 2 games after being terrible for weeks and weeks and weeks. But we haven't. We'd have beaten Brighton at home a few weeks ago when they equalised late on, when we should have beaten them. Maybe we'd look at it and go, do you know what? Point at the Amex, you take that. We needed to win that game today. And as much as it was a mistake in the last couple of minutes, and the rest of the performance was pretty much what we expected and pretty much what we needed to do to win the game, we still haven't won the game. And as I've said before, and this is my big issue with the manager, it's not the away form. Today was absolutely spot on by Sean Dyche. Everything he did at the setup, everything was spot on, because he does that. He can get it spot on away from home. He knows how to set us up away. He knows how to set us up to be resilient, strong, hard-working, defensively resolute, but also to be able to go forward and create chances. Fine, no problem with drawing against Brighton away with that performance. The problem is when we go to Goodison and we stink the place out for 90 minutes and don't win. That's my problem. I've said all along, I've got no issue with the away form, but we've got to go to Newcastle, we've got to go to Stamford Bridge, we've got to go to Old Trafford. I think we've got to go to Bournemouth away as well, which would be a hugely difficult game. We've got a number of away games where we can pick up points, but they will be very, very difficult games. Whereas our home games, Burnley, Forest at home, Brentford at home, West Ham at home, we've got Sheffield United at home, a number of very, very winnable home games, and this is where the manager needs to turn it around, because as good as today could have been, and as expected as the performance was, we didn't win the game. And we at the end of the day, we can't just rely on our away performances and our away results, because as today shows, sometimes they don't quite go for you. So there you go. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. I am massively disappointed at that one, to be honest. I'm slightly more fuming than I was on Monday, because, you know, Monday night was absolutely terrible, and we managed to come away with a point, and I was fuming on Monday because we should have done much better. But, you know, when you're seconds, minutes away from winning a game, and it just all disintegrates in front of you, yeah, it's a tough one to take. That's a tough one to take, especially when we're so desperate for a win as well. But there you go. We only draw games, don't we? We don't win games of football, and we very rarely lose games of football as well. But we draw every single week. There you go. If you've enjoyed it, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. Play ratings will be up shortly. Big thank you all for watching. We'll see you after.